All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Are we feeling the energy, the all-star energy? Everyone's jacked up the all-star game here in Toronto.
I just don't understand what's... Like, what are you talking
You're not jacked? You're not
You know
excited?
what? Like, if we were going to, like, some cocktail party or something and we were schmoozing with the guys, getting to say hello, I don't know. You guys know what I feel about this weekend. I might check it out to see if these changes kind of gets my interest to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I have thought in the past 5 to 7, 10 years, the All-Star, as soon as it went to 3-on-3, and they started wearing costumes for the breakaways, that's where, like, trust me, I like to try. I'll experiment. But when you wear the Batman costume and the Jagger hair, I just said, this isn't the NHL. Like, what are we doing here?
That was the last straw for you.
Dude, costumes, when guys were wearing capes and costumes, I said, I don't know if this is real life for me. But everyone always said it's for the kids.
Exactly. Everyone has to. I do think this is an example of, and people dump on me for this. People hate that I bring, what I think is the truth to the table. Is when it comes to the way we react to hockey compared to baseball and basketball, right? The big four sports. We've got the Leafs, we got the Raptors, we got the Blue Jays. Remember when the NBA All-Star Game was here? Which is much more celebrated. It is a bigger party. All the superstars want to be there.
There's the kicker, Hazy. Before you get going on your spiel, they love showing up and putting on a show.
I understand that, but a lot of the big dogs are going to be here this week. And when the NBA All-Star Game was here, we were all like, well, what about the weather? And what if they don't like us? What if I wonder what's going on tonight? And now you've got McDavid's here. Like, McDavid's here. Matthews obviously is here. Sid is going to be up here. Like, the biggest stars are going to be here. And it's the biggest hockey market in the world. I do think collectively the three of us are jaded because we're not big All-Star Game fans. Like, admittedly, that's just the truth. And that's not going to change because it's in our backyard. But
we just said
this is a big NHL event in Toronto.
If it's for the kids, then don't say, oh, come on. Oh, dog, why aren't you watching? I just told you, it's for the kids.
All right.
I'm not watching the costumes and the nonsense. It's for the kids.
I understand that.
Therefore, I don't tune in.
I
Okay.
think they're trying.
They're trying something different.
This is what I'm on board with trying to be creative. You're right. I feel like, I was heading down a different path and you just hit a nerve because all I can envision is there's like a Batman cape or like, wasn't Patrick Kane dressed up as Superman one time with the glasses or Clark Kent? Like, and you're like, okay, it doesn't fit because some guys just don't have the natural personality to be doing that. It's almost like forced, which is tough. It's tough. It's tough watching, but it is for the kids. I think it's how you celebrate it, but I think the league is trying. There's money on up for grabs. I think they're trying to build up other situations. I'll watch it. It's not my top priority based on, my viewing experience. But again, I'm watching it because you're right, Hayes. The biggest stars are on display here. And why not? I'd love to see it.
What I'm saying is I wonder if the three of us were too, are we out of touch? I guess that's what I'm asking. Are we out of touch in the city of Toronto?
Maybe.
Is the city buzzing that the All-Star Game is here? Because when the NBA All-Star Game came here, it was massive. For weeks, it was like, where are these guys staying? Where are they going to party? Is Drake going to be there?
That is
what are we
exactly
doing here?
You hit the nail on the head. We are so far out of touch because if we were King West, Al's brothers King West, and we knew the scene and it was like, hey, so-and-so is hosting a party late at night here, you would be like, let's get after it. And we're not even... We don't even know what the hell a buzz in the city is. We're not even close to it.
Speak for yourselves. I've been invited to 3 parties this weekend.
Oh, look at you! All right. Well, maybe throw it an invite to the two of us. We don't have anything.
If you want a +2, I can figure that out. I mean, there's a few guys that have reached out. There's a few guys that have reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to come by, swing by the party?" I think Missing Curfew's having a party. Got reached out to by them and said,
okay.
"Hey, do you want to roll by?" Like there are things
But those
that are
aren't
going
current
on.
players. Like those guys.
There are going to be current players there because
I have to take it back. I got invited to one party and it said something like 10 to 11 cocktail reception, and then afterwards and I was like, all I wrote back was, I go to bed at 9. And that was the end of the combo.
Right.
And it was my buddy that
rather-
sent it, and I just said, I go to bed at 9, and that was it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's fine. We got a little party going tomorrow,
I
right?
was
We're going to be
just
down
gonna
at Boston
say-
Pizza.
I was
There's
just
a lot
gonna
of buzz
say-
about that, I guarantee
Exactly. We're going to feel the buzz. I think today it's a Wednesday and it's kind of dreary outside and we got a little bit of attitude going here. But I think Thursday we get a feel of downtown, a little buzz on Front Street. We're sitting at Boston Pizza and we got some people surrounding. Like I think we're going to feel the buzz of the city. So give us
That's what
24
I'm looking
hours
for.
to right now, Brian, and I think our attitude's going to change.
I think you're onto something, Noodles. I think that's fair to the event as well. Like we still have games. Ottawa's playing tonight. The Kings are playing.
Dude,
like,
that would suck so bad.
it's terrible.
But mind you, they're probably getting the 5
they get the
days
following week
after.
off. Yes,
Yeah,
they do.
But it
is.
is weird. It is. Last night there were 2 games, and they were both shutouts. It was 1-0 games, or 2. Like it was just nonsense. And of course, they're non-traditional. They're games that we're not focused on. So you're watching them going, "All right, it's a bit of a battle." Like it was Seattle, San Jose, 1-0.
And San Jose is playing Anaheim tonight. Like that, honestly, that's like a game being played in the Bermuda Triangle. Like that game may not even be on record. Like,
I would love to. I would love
a bit
a
of it.
way. I would love an actual way to find out, because they always come out with these numbers of viewership. I want to know how many people watched that damn hockey game tonight. San Jose, Anaheim at 10:30.
I think it'll
Eastern
set a
time.
record. I think it might set a modern
I
day
think
record.
80 people. I think 80 people watched that game
out
tonight.
of this market, it'll be lean. Yes, from the east, it'll be lean. But there will be eyes on it. I promise you, I will watch some of it for some reason.
No, but
I will
Noodles,
tune
it's
up.
the double
I
whammy.
don't-
It's like, it is my team. But then the other guy goes, yeah, but they suck. And then the other guy goes, yeah, you're right. And
Yeah.
then maybe I won't watch it.
I'm with you.
I
Like
mean, it is. The thing is, I always feel like the league should shut down all at the same time, because you're right. There's these guys have buddies on other teams that they're looking and going, yeah, I'm in Turks right now. What are you doing?
dude, it's giving me
pregame.
flashbacks to when you'd write exams in school, and the exam schedule would come out like a couple of weeks before, and you had no idea, you had no control over it.
Right.
So you would get your sched, and you'd have buddies that would be done 5 days before you, and they're sticking around. They're like, we are flooring it. Like, we're finished. And you're like, I got a history thing I got to do. Like, you talk about panic inducing, because you're out the night before, like, every single time. Because the guy, like, one of your best friends is like, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I won't see you again until the fall. It's like, all right, I guess I could go out, take a peek. I'm like, I got a massive exam in like 8 hours. And that's kind of what it feels like tonight for a lot of these teams playing, where guys are either in Vegas, Turks, Mexico, or they're up here.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff going on in the city in terms of, events, like brand events, right? Guys have sponsorship deals where they're doing meet and greets and signings. And I would guess a lot of players are probably making money, or at least fulfilling those deals and those obligations, right? You come to Toronto and it's understood that you got to go shake some hands and meet with some people. And that's a big part of what this week is for the NHL. It's about the corporate sponsors. It's about making sure everyone, feels like you're an all-star, right? Like you're a big shooter, so to speak. But, we got a few games tonight. Ottawa, Detroit, which could get a little nasty tonight. Like, they got a bit of history between those two teams.
And Detroit's in it. So, I mean,
They gotta
Detroit's
win.
going to
Yeah,
play for
they're
keeps.
fighting.
And you know what? Like, Ottawa's played better lately. I think it's going to be a good game. But you're right. Like, I think scheduling is just annoying, where if you're watching a certain team and they're not playing for 9 days, you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to half-ass watch that. I'm going to half-ass watch that. But there are, teams that are fighting for playoff spots, doing all of that. Like, Detroit would fall into that category.
Absolutely.
Because they're having a really good season.
Well, and you think LA does want to get a win tonight? Like, LA's in
big time.
Nashville. If they got to hit the break with another loss, and then they have the bye week after, and do you know who they play when they come back? The Edmonton Oilers are their first game back at home next Saturday. And you got to get one tonight. You got to go into the break feeling good if you're LA. If not, I mean, all hell might might break loose there between now and the next time they get back on the ice.
You got to get a win in Nashville, and all you take off is your skates and put your shoes on after the win and walk across the street to Tootsie's, and the whole team at least has 2 beers. And
that's
then you go back.
great point.
And then you jump
Dude,
on
I'm telling
bird.
you just say, I'm putting my runners on. We're all going over. We're having 2 beers, and we're going to enjoy that effort we put in, and then we'll go back to the locker room and take our gear off and go home.
Yeah.
You're going to walk into Tootsie's with your gear on.
Yes, the whole team with our gear on, and just say, guys, we needed that, and let's celebrate with 2 beers only. Ronnie Francis used to tell me, there was some Hall of Famer that he used to play with. Every time only had 2 beers, and then he'd go home. I always said, man,
that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know. I was
Exactly,
like, oh, man, I wish I was that guy. But anyway, you go there, 2 beers, in your gear, in your pants, everything, and then walk back to the rink and get undressed and say, let's go home.
I would love that. I think that's the type of stuff where that's legendary, where that team came together. There was your TSN turning point.
Galvanizing moment, Hazy.
Galvanizing.
Absolutely.
Do you guys remember a player named Sean Podine?
Yeah, of course.
So there's
Didn't
a
take his
legendary
gear off for a week.
Yeah, there's a legendary story. He wins the Stanley Cup, puts skate guards on, goes to the bar in his gear, everything. 24 hours, he's still wearing it. He's still wearing the gear he wore that night to win the Stanley Cup. And I remember asking him, he's like, yeah, I did that. I was sitting at the bar with a helmet on, everything.
That's
unreal. Unbelievable.
That's unreal.
Guy won the Stanley Cup. He's like, I don't want to take my jersey off. I don't want this moment to end.
Yeah.
So he extended it for 24 hours. The legend's grown that it was a week or whatever. I think it was a hard 24 hours where he was buckled and enjoying himself, but in full gear.
That's commitment, and I love that. And listen, Nashville would be a top 3 or 4 city where you could do that. And even more, it's probably higher than that. It might be at the top because of where the rink is. Tootsie's is like a 9-iron from walking out of the rink. You walk out and you are basically in Tootsie's, or you're on Broadway, and the idea of I don't know what's going on with this camera here.
What is Joe? Is Joe from the Bridge got his foot on the
Joe? Someone check on Joe from the Bridge. Is he having?
He's falling asleep back there. He's leaning on the up and down button.
Hi. So if you're listening or you're on,
oh my God, you got it. No, down a little bit. Let's go take it down a little bit, Joe from the Bridge.
It's all good. There's probably
Obviously,
something
it's a
going on back there. It's all good. And if you're listening on radio, streaming, or podcast, we're up on TV. This is why I always say you got to PVR the show. You got to PVR the show every single day because you have no idea what is gonna end up happening. Anything is possible.
I bet you Jay Onright is back there, or somebody is back there.
For sure,
that's just not
somebody's
normal.
messing with it.
Yeah.
I gotta quickly before we get rolling, guys. I phoned O today. I'm not lying. I swear on my kid's life. I go and get some groceries today at Pusateri's, Bayview Mall, or Bayview Village, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. That's my old stomping grounds, North York area. Headphones on, talking to my brother on the phone, and going through. And I'm in the bread section, and I turn around, and a guy kind of locks eyes with me, and he goes, "Hey, just letting you know, Hayes is a fraud." And I swear to God,
Dude,
there's a guy.
I can't do it, man.
There's a guy making T-shirts. I retweeted it. He's going to be at Boston Pizza tomorrow, and he's going to be selling Hayes is a fraud T-shirts.
But the thing is,
if you got the picture, put it up because I'm buying 10 of them as soon as I walk into the place.
I want a hat. I want the hat. The T-shirt's cool. I'll wear the T-shirt too. But it's just I said, do me a favor, because I think Joe from the Bridge has it too. I said, let's take a picture and tweet it at OverDrive. And so he sent it.
Or we
there's me and him.
There it is.
Yeah, Hayes is a fraud. You know what I get people now, we were trying to engage again on Instagram or whatever, they'll send me a DM. They'll begin by saying, I don't think you're a fraud. I just wanted to ask you a question about that opinion I totally disagreed with.
I'll tell you what, one of your opinions pissed somebody off down in Pittsburgh. They're writing about you.
You're not kidding, man.
This guy, they were referring to you as this guy up in Canada. Hayes said Sidney Crosby should get out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But they were referring to you like it was Don Cherry up in Canada. It was beautiful.
I was dying.
That guy, look at this. That's a logo right there.
That's
Hayes
an unbelievable logo.
Yeah, that one. I guess maybe we're going to see those down on front tomorrow. I don't know. But
I'll clean the guy out. I'll bring a $1,000 cash and clean the guy out, whatever he has.
We'll just hand them out to the audience tomorrow.
That's right.
Everyone's
Somebody just
gonna
buy
want one.
all of them, and we'll just toss them to the crowd.
You're right, though. I had that sent to me this morning. I'm like, man, people down like the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette or something, like a columnist down there writing about my take that I want to see Sid get out.
But it was also on a big podcast down there. I listened to it about the 17-minute mark. Somebody sent it to us, and it was, two big names. I don't know their names, but the guy was like, what do you make of Bryan Hayes out of Toronto? And he's like, he called you something like a talking head or something. Like he took a shot at you, but it was like, but he said like, well, he doesn't know. And basically they said that Sid helped assemble this team. Gino and
I understand that.
But he carves them early, and then later on he's like, well, he's right about one thing. And I was like, well, hey, you can't rip the guy, and then later, halfway down the page, say, well, he is right about one thing, and the one thing is the only thing that matters. Is like Sid deserves whatever it was that he deserves.
Like I made the point very clear on Jay last week, and I knew it. Like, sometimes you have takes, and you're like, that one's probably going to garner some attention. Last time I checked on Jay on SC's Instagram account, it had like 25,000 likes and like over 1,000 comments. Like it just exploded. And I knew people were going to, have an opinion one way or the other. And I prefaced it by saying, I'm not predicting it will happen. I'm not suggesting he's going to want it to happen. Sidney Crosby, I made the plea that I want to see it happen. And I think it would be great for him. I think it would be great for the sport. And quite frankly, the elephant in the room that people don't want to hear necessarily is it'd be great for Pittsburgh because there's a Matt Sundin element to this as well. Like, the ship has sailed. They've won cups. They've had an unbelievable run. He's been there for 19 years. It was just like Matt's, where Matt's was, maybe the greatest Leaf ever. And at the end, it was like, you got to turn things over. And it sucked. It sucked for Sundin. It sucked for the organization. I would guess a lot of fans probably look back on that and say, oh, I wasn't doing that. Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. You were probably sitting there on Twitter or at the game saying, waive your no trade so you can accumulate some picks and prospects and you can turn things over because there has to be a new era. Well, the difference is in Toronto, there was always an understanding and a confidence that the team wasn't going to collapse, right? And that ownership wasn't going to have an issue. That always comes up with Pitt. Well, Lemieux saved them, and then Sid saved them. And if it weren't for Sid, and what if he leaves? And what if, 4,000 people are in the building? And what? Well, I understand that. That makes it very different and very difficult. The day will come where he's not playing anymore, though. Like, that's going to happen. At some point, he's going to retire. Whether he's a Penguin or not, the days are coming where he's not going to be in Pitt. So they better have a succession plan, right? Because guess what? Before he leaves, Gino's probably going, and Letang's going. And if he's passing the torch to Erik Karlsson when he's 38, good luck.
Yeah, but you know what? That's why I think Kyle got a 7-year deal. I guarantee you the Fenway Group said to him, these next 2 years, you do whatever you want to keep this group alive, keep it going, try and make the playoffs, try and give them one last kick at the can. And then after that, you have to cycle through. He probably said, I'm going to need a 5-year window to turn it over and try and retool, rebuild however you want it. That's why I thought to myself,
what's the sense of watching it again the second year? This is already true 3 years ago. So what, you got to watch it 1 year and say, oh, well, we'll just throw spaghetti at the wall again and see what sticks. I would just be like, I don't know what these conversations are like between ownership and presidents, but I would be like, I'm not signing off on trying to make the playoffs with these guys because they've proven it over the last 4 years that they're just not good enough. So.
Well, but I guess you're right. They might change their mantra. I'm just saying, and again, I'm not behind closed doors. My guess is that number 7 stuck out for me as far as, because as a manager, you don't need to sign player terms. You could have signed 5 years, you could have signed 10, doesn't matter. Like 7, I was like, that's a unique number. So I thought, okay, maybe it's 2 years of this group that you brought back or that was brought back and you were willed, and then you've got a 5-year rebuild after this. And they might have to readjust that based on what you just said, But that would be if I'm Kyle Dubas and selling that to the Fenway Group, I'm saying this is a 7-year. You want this group, you want to give Sid every opportunity. It's probably 2 years, and I have to flush it all down the drain. But
well, the masterful plan would have been a couple years ago. I don't know what the timeline was. I'd have to go back and look. But the blueprint is what the LA Kings did. And it's tough bringing them up because they're such a mess right now. But they kept Doughty. and
Kopitar.
they kept Kopitar, but Alec Martinez gone, Muzzin gone, different players just gone, and there was only
Quick.
the two guys that stayed, Jonathan Quick. It's all out the door, and they got younger players, and they brought in a guy like Dubois. Again, he's not playing well right now, but that to me is a retool on the fly that's pretty damn good.
Well, and not forget, guys, we all thought they were going to retool and bottom out. They signed Deneau. Remember, it was kind of a surprising sign. It was like Philip Deneau coming out of a Stanley Cup final, signs in L.A., and I'm like, what are they doing?
And he's been very good. He's been very good.
So you're right.
But
that's the retool.
I would argue that Pittsburgh did that between 08-09 and 15-16. Like, they had that transition, right? Like, there's only so many you get before it's like, all right, you've played those cards. Like,
right.
They went to cups quickly with Sid and with Gino and with Stahl and Letang and Flower. And then it was like, all right, some of these guys are going to move. We're going to have to bring in some different pieces. Jim Rutherford's going to come in and move pieces around. And, they went back to back. And that's 8 years ago now. Like, they won their cup 7-8 years ago. So, I'm not anticipating it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying I would personally love to see it. And there is a selfish element to this as well. As someone in this content creation world we live in, be amazing. Like, to see him back in the limelight of like, wow, where is Sid going? Because I think based on his personality, and we've had these conversations before, like Sid is not a guy that's not on social media. He's not a guy that we really know anything about. And that's his choice. And he goes about his business. And there's different extremes. You could go the complete other opposite way, where you look at LeBron last night, the Lakers lose. You see he posted like an hourglass emoji on Twitter, and people are supposed to decipher that like it's...
Dude, I'm sick of that guy's nonsense.
Yeah, it's like the Da Vinci Code after the game. We're like, where's Robert Langdon? Yeah.
Well, how long ago was it before they were hanging a banner in L.A. for the mid-season tournament? It was like they were on top of the world.
I know.
2 months.
I chuckled to myself because you see, them playing and then their street clothes in the background.
He didn't play last night.
He had a hip flexor.
He looked really comfortable. He was really comfortable last night.
And I was like, God, like they got to flash him on the bench.
Would ever say, just get rid of me and start the rebuild there?
That's again, like I said, it's like you need Robert Langdon from the Da Vinci Code to decipher what he means by the hourglass. Like,
the hourglass means time's ticking away. We got to do something here and do something different and bring in a player. I guarantee you that's what that means.
It could be. Or
time
Darvin.
is ticking away.
Yeah. Or his coach. Like, that's got to be it's got to be tough if you're Darvin Ham. You're like, this guy is really not helping me right now. Anyway, Jack's coming up. His take on that. We'll get his take on the Bills, too. It's been a week and a half. How's he feeling? And we have some audio here from Travis Kelce, the Kelce brothers, and Travis was talking about the Justin Tucker stuff. So it's a really good clip explaining what happened between Mahomes and Kelce and Tucker on Sunday. And obviously there's a picture circulating around the internet as well about Mahomes with no shirt on, and people are buzzing about that. I think he's actually handling it really well. We'll get to that too.
Dad bod season.
He's cut, man. There aren't many curves there, dude. Like, he's got the dad bod. Like, he is, and that guy is just unreal. Like, he's just a great pure athlete, because that guy is not cut. Like, he is not cut.
Guess what? Plays every game, best athlete in the league, and he's never injured.
That's right. That's all that matters. We always say it. The best ability is availability. So more on that still to come. And Jim Rutherford will join us today. Patrick Alvin has got himself an extension out there, too, the GM of the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks have been the story of the season so far. Jim Rutherford, who's been on the show many times before, he's coming up just after 5 o'clock. Jerry will be in town, and Jerry's percentages in about an hour. We're looking forward to that. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. You have our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later this afternoon on Pebble Beach. We got to do, what, a 3-pack, 5-pack today? How many picks are we going to do?
And I'm going to send out a warning shot to that little Paul McGinley. Stop wearing your golf shoes on the set. There is no need for a pair of jeans, a tight dress shirt, and a dress jacket, and a tie with your spikes on.
I know, but why is he in jeans? Also, that's another thing
dude,
I don't understand.
The deal with broadcasting. You only see the top half. Fire a pair of jeans on. But I caught him on a full shot, and he had a giant pair of Adidas spikes on. You don't wear. Yeah. We've talked about golf shoe guy at the tournament as a spectator. You don't need your wheels on the broadcast set.
No, you don't. No, it's absurd. It's absurd. I mean, that guy's got access to a cart everywhere he goes anyway. He's not playing.
I'm going to send the pic to Joe from the bridge. It is outrageous to see.
I hear you, but again, he needs to be aware, and maybe this is a communication issue. If you're doing like a sit down in like a director's chair, you can't have jeans on. You cannot have jeans on with golf shoes. The whole look is discombobulated, man. Yeah, it's just can't have it. All right, Jack's coming up here in a moment. You guys want to hear this Kelce clip from earlier today? Because people are still looking back on the Justin Tucker stuff. He and Mahomes and Kelce going at it in the end zone. It's a great clip from their podcast, Jason and Travis Kelce. This is what Travis had to say about the whole situation earlier today.
We're warming up, and we do our same warm-up every single time on our side of the field. For those of you that don't know what happens in pre-games, the Ravens have their side of the field, and the Chiefs have our side of the field. Now, specialists, because of like the wind factor and
they go to
where
both
you
sides
are, they get a chance to kick at both field goals and kind of punt from both sides of the field. But it's always if you're trying to go onto the other team's designated area, you kind of stay out of their way. You know, you don't interfere with what they have going on.
That is the unwritten rule.
That's the unwritten rule. If you want to about it, you keep your helmet and your football and your kicking tee right where the quarterbacks are warming up and they're dropping. Eyes are looking left and they got a helmet down by their feet.
It's actually kind of dangerous, really. But
like, if you're not going to pick that up, I'll happily move that for you. Justin came out and he said it was more of a joking gesture and kind of a fun competitive. And I get it. I mean, he was kind of winking at me, like being about it, like trying to get under the skin.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
I get it, but
he got under your skin a little bit.
Me and Pat, we've been having the same mentality for this game all week long, man.
Yeah.
And it was you got to go in there and have the right mind frame, have the right mindset, and we just weren't in a joking mood. We were ready to get after it. And so, Justin, sorry if we took it to a level that you didn't think it'd get to that way, but if you're going to be, I promise you, I can one-up you every time.
All right, so I love the explanation, the clip, like the behind-the-scenes stuff. What I find most fascinating about that is the sewering of Tucker, not the actual antics, that he said, you were in a joking mood, we were not. Yeah. Like, you were winking at us like, I'm here to have a good time. And that was like Kelce's way of being like, we weren't doing that, and that's why we won the game. It's like unnecessary, like piling on.
Playing the role, letting everybody know that come game time, we're way more serious than everybody else. But you know what? When you got the street cred that they do, you can say stuff like that. Because now San Francisco is like, oh, God, come game time, those guys play for keeps, man. They're going to kill us.
Exactly.
There's a method behind that madness why you send out those comments, because they probably said we got to be all business going in there and we can get the job done. I love those guys. I love that whole operation, man.
Yeah, so do I.
And they use their platform to get it out. They don't have to say it in the media, you know, and be asked to, in a scrum. They're just talking about it on their podcast, and they know that the media will clip it and it'll get out just organically.
For sure. Like, that's new media for you, man. Yeah. Like, that was a big topic of discussion, and you go right to the man himself, Travis Kelce, talking about it. I wouldn't be shocked if they had Justin Tucker on at some point in the next few weeks, possibly to retort, to comment on it, or whatever. That was pretty good stuff. We'll get back into that later this afternoon. The Raptors are coming off a win last night. It's such a weird kind of conflicting view right now. Like, do you want them to win? You know they're going to win games, but that pick, like the protection hanging over it, it's just clouding everything right now. I almost just want it out of the way. Like, give it to San Antonio, get it over with so you can just build and move forward. To chat about it, we're joined now by our TSN Raptors and NBA analyst. Here's Jack Armstrong. How you doing, Jack?
Guys, I'm great. By the way, I was unfortunately at the Bills-Kansas City game in Buffalo a few weeks ago, so it was a heartbreaker. Look, we won the party, but we didn't win the last 5 minutes of the game, so
wow,
unfortunately.
Man.
The Chiefs are awesome. They got a great team. They got an amazing quarterback. Him and Kelce and Mahomes are Hall of Famers, as is their coach, and give them credit. They deserve to be exactly where they are right now.
So, speak for Buffalo for us here, Jack. Like, is there still like an adamant belief Josh Allen is winning a Super Bowl in Buffalo? Like, is that the belief?
I would say there's more apprehension than there was 12 months ago, much more apprehension than there was 24 months ago and 36 months ago. So I would say that based upon the dynamics of the cap and team building, Brandon Beane's done an amazing job there. And I think it's just going to get harder and harder because you have to pay your top guys big money, and they're going to have to rebuild their defense. And they're going to have to get a deep threat to complement Diggs because for whatever reason, right now you look at their best two receivers are Kincaid and Shakur, and they have a really good young running back in Cook. But to me, I think they need a deep threat to kind of loosen things up a little bit. And they're going to really need to rebuild their defense. They got some nice young pieces on their D, but they're going to have a lot of holes and not a lot of money to fill them.
Jack, you say apprehension, but you know what 6 beers in the parking lot will do before the first game. That will turn into optimism very quickly.
Oh, hey, I'm all in. Hey, look, I get it. Again, it's an incredible scene. The fans are amazing. But, when you watch grown adults just bawling their eyes out after the game against the Chiefs.
That's tough to watch.
Wide right.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about Dan Campbell talking about having his heart ripped out. It's just it's a tough one. But the fans are amazing. It's an incredible experience of people having gone to a game there. And but hey, give the Chiefs credit. They came in and took care of business. Obviously against a decimated Bills defense, but nonetheless they did it.
So, Jack, I'm watching the game last night. A couple of things stick out. Gary Trent came out shooting. He never stopped shooting. He had a great night. But Grady Dick's playing minutes. Like, they're still going through the rotation. That's a close game last night. You can see Darko, his plan. They're going to play guys. But Grady Dick, he's had a bit of a tough start. He's a rookie. He's very young. Spent some time with the 905, but his stats wouldn't leap out at you last night at all. I mean, he literally didn't score. But I like the fact that they're going to give him play. And I'm curious what you think the plan is for him the rest of the way.
He's a basketball player. He's not a shooter. He will eventually get his shooting form in line with where I think it is, and based upon what he did at Kansas. Obviously, the NBA is a different game because of the distance, three-point line, and the speed and the athleticism and all that. But he'll be a good professional shooter. What he is though, he's a good basketball player. To your point, he didn't score, yet he rebounds, he passes, he's got a feel for the game. He can put the ball on the floor for a few bounces, and he's going to fill out and get stronger. He's just a kid, and but there's no doubt in my mind that that he will be a good player, and he will be a rotation guy. Will he be a starter? Will he be an all-star? I don't have the slightest idea yet. A lot of that comes down to, the work he's going to put in the offseason. And you look at the work that a humbled Scotty Barnes put in this past offseason and look at the jump that he's made now. And I think, there was probably as much hype, maybe more hype for Grady Dick coming in than there might have been for Scotty Barnes, which is crazy to say. And it's been a struggle for him. And I do think, though, you judge people on how they deal with failure and how they deal when they get put down to the 905. And Pascal Siakam could talk about it. And a lot of the young Raptors from years ago have all gone through it. But you look at where Siakam is now and Norm Powell and guys like that, Fred VanVleet. So I really feel confident that this kid has the makeup and the will to put the work in, and little by little, as he gets stronger and more mature and all those things, he's going to end up being a good player. And I look at how he played on Sunday night in Atlanta. I did that game on TSN, and he was excellent. And last night I watched the game, and I thought he was really good, sound within his floor game. And, a lot of times the sign of a good player is, can you contribute in some way, shape, or form to winning and yet not have a big night as a scorer? I thought he helped last night.
Jack, what's the best case scenario to dig out of this? I know when the Leafs were going through some tough times, we called it the dignified tank, where they played well, they were in every game, they ultimately get Austin Matthews, they turn the corner. They do have Scotty Barnes, but I know Masai talked about 3 or 4 years, and then he talked about 5 or 6 in the same sentence. What do you think's the best case scenario? Is there a way to do this and kind of speed it up so, everyone doesn't get too restless?
I would say the last few days, when the 2 games prior to this trip, Memphis at home, Clippers at home, wasn't good. Was not a good look. Particularly the Memphis game, they just got outplayed. I mean, obviously the Clippers, they're just more talented. I mean, they're a team on a championship level that's going to be contending in the West. If you put the Clippers in the East, I would argue potentially they could be the best team in the East. So they're legit. But I think the last 2 games, Chicago's been playing better. Atlanta is in your neighborhood in terms of the talent level and where they're at. But they're at home. You win at Atlanta, you lose at Atlanta in a heartbreaker at the buzzer, and then you win last night in Chicago. Both games, I've come away from both games feeling really good. I love the energy. I love how hard they're playing. They're sharing the ball and trying to do right thing. In no way, shape, or form have they tuned out their coach. I think the coach completely has their attention. I think they're trying to do the right things that he's preaching. And I think there's just so many moving parts right now for him and his coaching staff to deal with. I'm really impressed by what they're doing. And, they got to tighten the screws defensively. I think having Jakob Poeltl back soon will help immensely with that. But as long as the vibe, to your point, stays kind of what, the Leafs tried to do, and you're competitive and you're entertaining. I mean, their style of play is fun to watch. They play with juice. They play with energy. They're fun. They celebrate each other's successes. They got each other's backs when there's setbacks. So I like it. They're a fun team. They're a nice group of guys. So I think there's something to build with there. And look, every year we all say, well, this year's draft class isn't great. I get that. But right now, theoretically, have 4 of the top 31 picks in the draft if the season were to end today. Sometimes you're not going to have a year where necessarily you can hit on a big guy like a.k.a. Scotty Barnes, but nonetheless, you can backfill your team. And I think a big part of what made the Raptors so successful for their long-term run was the incredible organizational depth that they had. And on many nights during the regular season, you win games because your second-tier guys come in and help steal games for you, and you end up having a great year. Now, obviously, in the playoffs, you need your main actors to be the main actors, and you always want to add to that group that you potentially have that can be impact guys when the chips are down in big games. But it's a process, and it might not only take this draft class, it might take the following draft class. It's going to maybe be impacted by this trade deadline, this upcoming summer in terms of trades and free agency. Next year, potentially at the trade deadline again, and potentially in June of 2025 with the draft. So I'm looking at it more big picture. I think they've definitely hit, I don't know what button they've hit, reset, rebuild, restructure. I don't know what it is, but as long as they're competitive and fun this way, I think they're going to be going back and heading in the right direction again because their leadership is good.
Jack, what do you make of LeBron and his cryptic tweets? Because he's at it again.
Come on, Jack, give it to us. What do we make of it?
I tell you what, if your ownership and management, let alone coaches, this guy sets a high standard, and he's running out of time. He's not playing like he's running out of time, but he knows that Father Time sooner or later beats everybody, and he wants help. The problem is when, players, as much as they're really smart and they know the ins and outs, they also sometimes don't understand the true, absolute complexity of what the salary cap is and what the new CBA looks like in terms of the first apron, second apron, luxury taxes, all those types of things. And that some of the mechanisms that you can use to improve your team are shutting for over-the-top luxury tax type teams. And it gets harder and harder to just say, okay, let's move these three guys and get another good player. It doesn't work that way. Ask the Warriors. It's hard. And also, you look at when you start putting players in charge of coach searches like Giannis, and they'll deny it till the day is long. I mean, look, I love Adrian Griffin. I was thrilled when he got the job. I thought it was an incredibly difficult situation for him to be put in as a first-year head coach. That's, for him, a bottom 10, bottom 12 team is the ideal starting point for him with no head coaching experience. But to throw him in to the deep end with that team, and now they make a move for Damian Lillard, I don't know about that. And that's Giannis has his hands partly on that, maybe wholly on that. And, it's the same thing in L.A. There comes a point where the people that are hired to do their jobs have to do their jobs, and they got to be very adamant and clear and concise with the fact that these are the options we have, and quite frankly, sometimes they're very limited. And the dudes that are players 3 through 15 on your roster with you and Anthony Davis, they got to pick up their game because I got nowhere to turn.
Jack, we'll leave it there. Go Bills. Thank you for this, buddy. Go Bills.
You got it.
All right, that's Jack Armstrong. Hello. That is strange, man. Like wide right, like grown adults crying as they're trying to get out of the stadium. That's how much sports means to people, especially like football. Like they love the Bills. The hype was there. They had a chance. Like if you get blown out, you're not crying, right?
Yeah,
You get blown out, you're pissed.
Hayes, you and I grew up in Toronto, and let's just say for some reason we weren't working if they were in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and we sat there and they lost 5-1 to lose the Stanley Cup. We would get up and we would go to our car, and you would probably say, "Want to golf tomorrow?" And I'd say, "Yeah, okay." And then we'd go home.
Possibly.
I don't
Possibly.
think, dude, you grew
I
up
hear you.
watching that. We both did. We would
love
not
the
shed
Leafs.
tears.
I don't
man.
think I'd shed tears, but I don't think 5-1's the appropriate way of putting that. Like
No,
this
it's
was
Also,
wide
it's
right.
overtime, pizza up the middle.
Yeah, I mean, tie game or a breakaway late to tie it, and the guy hits the crossbar.
A bad goal. maybe.
Bad goal.
Maybe that might get a tear kind of dribbling.
I think it might get you a little dusty. A little dusty. I'm not saying like full blown like waterworks. You're like, this convulsion, like you're freaking out, like some people possibly are. But I think you get emotional, right? You're part of the ride. You're waiting for the Bills, and again, it's against Mahomes. Like again, like there's such an element. There's an element of jealousy there. You're like, really, dude? This guy's gonna keep going. He's still like, you don't have enough. And Mahomes just lights a cigar and leaves and waves at people like, see you later. I'm off to Baltimore, and I'm going to do the same thing to them. And then I'm going to the Super Bowl again, and I plan on doing the exact same thing to them.
Yeah, like Josh Allen's got to watch him play and say,
Yeah.
I'm as good as that guy. Like, if you want to talk about physical talent, like, I can do what that guy does.
But he can't. That's the
thing,
though.
man.
He
That's
But
the
in
thing.
a
You
different
can't.
way, he does things differently, and he does it in a winning way where it's a lot different. But he
Right.
probably looks at him and says, that's my comparable. And that guy's going to try for his 3rd Super Bowl, and I don't have one yet.
Right.
Yeah, that's what he's facing, man. All right, Jim Rutherford in about 15 minutes. The man in charge out there in Vancouver. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
I'm already dreading the AT&T. One, the weather is a gong show, and it's like winter jackets, wind. Tony Finau on 7 today hit a driver. He hit a driver. It's a 100-yard hole. And I hate when they show Bill Murray playing golf out there. I just can't do it. Because he just has these He's got suspenders on and weird clothes,
Just
and
annoying,
he's
right?
terrible. And I don't think golf fans watching golf tournaments, ever want to see the am shots unless it's John Smoltz or Jeremy Roenick or someone like that. I don't want to see. Like, I love Chris Berman, man, but I can't. I don't want to watch that guy slash.
The
Look at
Swamp.
Finau on the Swamp.
The Swamp. That's where he had the swass going at the Pro-Am.
Yes,
Remember his swass? That
That's
was
a
at the Pro-Am.
100-yard hole right there, and this guy is hitting a driver on it, and it was just long.
Yeah.
So I like sunshine. I like seeing great golf. But, Hazy, we talked about that, Paul McGinley. Look at this setup that this guy had. The camera panned out, and they showed the full meal deal of the shoes, the jeans, and everything on Paul McGinley. I don't know if Joe look at, like, you can't wear golf shoes.
You can't be in a director's seat
No.
with jeans and a pair of
But it's not
Adidas
supposed
golf
to be on
shoes.
TV. They're supposed
No,
to
but
go.
Hayes,
I
why does he
know.
have the shoes on?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I love Adidas golf shoes. They're great shoes, but that's outrageous. Like,
He's
there's
hitting
no excuse
seeds.
for it.
He must be hitting seeds,
No, I
but
don't
like
think
in
so.
commercial breaks.
No, exactly. Maybe he thinks he's he was a professional golfer, but exactly. Like, does he have a lob wedge beside him and he's working on his short game?
I
mean,
bet you Johnson Wagner looked down and said, Paul, why in the hell do you have those Adidas spiked shoes on right now?
I'll tell you what, Johnson Wagner might have the best mustache on television right now.
Dude, that cookie duster, it's Tom Selleck.
Yesterday, they had the full meal deal Holyfield set up with the Pacific Ocean behind him. This guy's stash was glistening. McGinley was like distracted. You could tell. He could not. He kept calling him Johnson. He's like, "You're right, Johnson. Johnson, that's right." He loves that name. And he's got the stash. It's dignified. It looks outstanding. Okay, we got to we'll get back into the Bill Murray thing because
Dude, no one wants to see Bill Murray golfing.
he's been the face of the
No,
Pro-Am
he isn't.
for 20
No,
years.
he
Yes,
isn't.
he has been.
Dude, he threw an old lady in the bunker.
I
They
know.
were rolling around in the bunker
It's
10
goofy.
years
It's
ago.
really
It's
goofy.
insane.
It's got to be. He doesn't want to do it anymore either. You know, he's like, guys, I got to stop. All right, hour two coming up. Jim Rutherford, Jerry's Percentages. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.